Lista, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's do this, Iris.
Alrighty.
All right, let's do this. Iris Lopez, thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited. And it was like 5 minutes away from my house, so
I know,
that's good.
and I was asking you, right, when we started, like, I'm sure you live on the west side as well, because 9 out of 10 people live on the west side. The people that have come to the podcast, so I'm like, maybe that's a common denominator. Instead of me asking so many questions about success, I should just move to the west side. But yeah, I should just move over there.
I work on the west side, but no, I still live on the east side.
There you go. All right, so very excited. I was telling you, there's a lot of topics that I want to cover. There's a list of people that I got when I started thinking about the idea. And then there's others that, well, the same list, but I wanted to make sure that I was ready when it comes to kind of like already had a few in, that I was already more, not that I'm an expert. You'll see that I'm not an expert for sure, but a little more familiar with what I'm doing, and I'm able to carry a conversation that people get value, and yourself as well. I was telling you, my number one priority is for you to find this valuable, not only on the things that you're going to share, but maybe something that again, someone else can benefit from. For extremely excited about today.
Definitely.
Let's get started with talk to us a little bit about who you are, what you do, just in case someone doesn't know who Iris Lopez is.
So I am currently right now I work as a weather anchor. So my day job, a weather anchor and a TV reporter for KVIA TV in El Paso, Texas. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. Most recently, I've added founder for a nonprofit organization, Mija, Yes You Can. It's a women empowerment organization that we provide scholarships. We're actually going to start finally being able to provide our first scholarship to women in the community. We also just give resources, create workshops, conferences, and help other nonprofits in the area. Kind of just, motivate women. You can do what you want to do, and we're here to support you. We're kind of like their cheerleaders. I'm also, most important job ever, a mom to a 10. He's going to be 11 already in May. 11, I'll say 10. I'll stick with 10 still.
Stick with 10.
10-year-old little boy, Jacob. He's my pride and joy, and he is a mama's boy, and he is a full-time job.
Yeah. And just before we started recording, I was like, how can you manage so many things? And what is the answer to that? How do you manage?
I can't. Sometimes I'll have my family telling me, you need to stop. You need to take a break. A workaholic. People jokingly say that, but I literally have a problem. I'm a workaholic. But like I was telling you earlier, I had to finally say no to someone, and the world didn't end. I was like, look at that. You said no to someone and you won't be stressed out that day now, but they'll still invite you to another event.
Nice. Well, by the way, I'm so glad you started saying no after you said yes
I know.
to this podcast. When you said that, I was like, oh my God, perfect timing.
I just started it today.
Yeah. I was like, perfect timing. All right, Iris. Well, definitely we'll talk about your project, why you started, your son, everything about your personal life, anything that you want to share, of course. But let's get started with growing up. How was your childhood?
It was great. It was good. I had a good childhood.
How many siblings do you have?
It's 5 of us. So I'm the middle child. And when I tell people that, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Because people think they say I'm weird, I'm quirky, I'm this and that. And I'm like, well, I had 2 older sisters and a younger sister and a younger brother. So, part of me had to be older sometimes, and then I had to be younger sometimes. So I'm a little bit of everything. I'm all over the place. Born and raised here in El Paso, east side. I actually live a neighborhood away from my parents, which is nice sometimes, but then sometimes it's not, because they'll just casually walk in whenever, and I'm like, I'm trying to relax. But born and raised here, went to Mountwood High School.
Yes.
You graduated from UTEP. Growing up, I always had a passion for music. I wanted to be the next Britney Spears. I love telling that story.
Go for it. Now, was it singing? Was it playing an instrument? Okay.
So singing is what I started with. I was in choir. Most recently, I would work with young kids. I would give them private singing lessons. Before I started the nonprofit, I needed a way, journalism doesn't pay a lot. So I had to find another way to kind of make some more money, because I was living on my own, had my son, and I would do private lessons, and I had 8 students, which was a lot for someone who just started it by promoting it on Facebook, But then,
how long did you do that for?
I did that for about over a year for sure, maybe about almost 2 years, and then the pandemic hit, and we obviously had to cancel them. So I canceled them, and I was starting to do virtual, but it just wasn't the same. And then I started the Mija project, so I kind of like I had to decide, unfortunately, right. I was like, am I going to keep doing this? Am I going to do this? Saw the Mija project was going so well that I was like, I only had at that time 1 or 2 students. So I was like, I'm going to have to put a pause on it right now. Maybe later I could come back. But
is that a part of the plan to come back to that?
Oh yeah,
eventually?
I'd love to. Eventually but I'd like to do it in person, because virtual, it's just not the same. I would have students, we would just be chatting the whole time, which was nice. I mean, it was nice for them to have an escape too, but I'm like, okay, well, we got to do what your parents are paying me to teach you. So
that's funny. Did you ever pursue that professionally? I know, of course you did, because now you're getting paid for that, but I mean, like, an actual career, you singing? Did you pursue that?
Originally did want to be a singer. I didn't know what I wanted to. Well, I want to be the next Britney Spears, but I was like, let me go to music school, see how else I can do it. I would audition for other music schools, colleges, theater arts and music. And then at 18, I actually got sick. It's funny, people don't believe me, but I had iritis. Google it, everyone.
Can you tell us what that is?
So it was like an inflammation behind the eye, but they didn't know what it was. It was 18, and my eye vessel popped. And so, when people, it's just all red. But for me, it popped, and we're like, whatever. And then I started getting pounding headaches, like ridiculous, to the point where I would lock myself in my room, the light would be off, and no one could make noise. It was like, it was migraines. So we didn't know what it was. My parents took me to the hospital. They had to admit me just because they had to put me, they were like, we don't know. My parents thought the worst. So I was in and out of the hospital for like about a month, and I was going to school for music, and then all I could do in the hospital was watch the news, and I was watching Gary Warner, Stella Casas. I was like, that's something I could do too. I think I can do that.
Really? When you're in the hospital, that's when you start? Because you're going to my next question, by the way.
No, that's exact. Like, I always had a passion. Me and my sisters, growing up, my dad would always lend us his video camera, and we would always pretend to be the news. We would play school, we would play the news, and my sisters were always the anchors, and I was the weather girl. But I didn't go to school for weather, but I just by chance was the weather girl because they wanted to be the anchors. So I had a passion for doing something. It's like, it's in a way performing when we're being anchors.
On the spotlight, right?
Yeah, sort of deal, kind of. But so then, when I was in the hospital, I was like, I could do something like that. And I changed my major from music to multimedia journalism.
Okay. Now, you're telling me that this is something, again, I don't understand this disease. I don't know exactly what it is, but how did it affect your wanting to pursuing your singing career?
Well, just that I think after, and my parents actually thought it was stress related that made me get this, because I was in a musical and I was still going to school. So see, even back when I was 18, I was a workaholic, and I actually had to stop doing the musical stuff afterwards because I didn't have time, because I was always going in and out. And then they actually put me on steroid medication. So for a year, when you're on steroids, your face just blows up. I broke out, and I was just horrible, and I never wanted that to happen again. So yeah, I just felt like journalism was something else I would want to do, because I would write music. So I was like, I can write. I know how to write. I know how to talk. It was using my voice, because when you're on TV, you're I always tell people, I'm like, you got to kind of sing. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in my head the way we talk. We're talking. I don't know.
That's so interesting, because now that you mention it, I mean, you have to have a rhythm, right, to be able to communicate with the audience. That's what I'm thinking you're trying to say with that, and it makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's go back a little bit as far as high school. I know you graduated from Monwood. Talk to us about your high school experience. What type of girl you were in high school?
At the beginning, I was shy and very quiet. Very quiet. And then my senior year, I think, is when I blossomed, I would say. I was in choir. I was stubborn. You can ask my choir teacher. I was always, stubborn, sarcastic, but I enjoyed doing choir, and I felt like I was good at it. And that's where, I got the passion for music. And then, towards the end, I just blossomed a little bit more. I guess me and my friends we would just do a lot more activities, and we would hang out more. And then college years, I was just more talkative and more outgoing, and now you can't shut me up.
All right. Now let's go back to, okay, you wanted to be on TV, right? Mm-hmm. But what was the reason behind that? Was it only the spotlight? Was it specifically news? Was it something locally? What was it that maybe caught your attention? You wanted to pursue this and actually change your major to that?
I wanted to tell stories, honestly. I don't think like being on TV was ever my goal. You know, it just so happened that, you know, you would be on TV, but to tell people stories is what I wanted to do, because when I would write music, I was telling my stories through the song. So I felt like I could, you know, tell other people's stories through news.
Nice. Now, I graduated from marketing and advertising. A lot of the, I don't have to call them the curriculums or like the some of the first classes that you must take for marketing and advertising. I had a lot of friends, again, going for journalism as well. So we share a lot of those classes. And what I was talking to Keenan Wheeler about is, what is it that made you special to be able to be now in the job that you want? Because what I noticed that a lot of people that maybe have that degree, somehow, some way, they ended up doing something different. So what is it that you have that has enabled you to be at the place where you're at right now?
I think most recently, lately, people have told me I'm able to be relatable to the viewers. It doesn't sound like I'm being fake, and that's the best compliment anyone can ever give me. You know, I thought you were going to be like a fake person. You're real. You're a real person. And I'm like, yes, I am. So I feel like I don't know, like, I'm not, most people think, you know, we're on the TV, we're robots, this and that. And, you know, sometimes there's people that don't want to show their emotions, this and that. But I'm going to relate to the people. If they're crying, I'll probably cry with them. If they're screaming and cheering, I'll probably cheer with them. So I just felt like I could kind of give me my personal self, put it in what I do.
Okay. Now, after you graduate from college, walk us through how you were able to land this job here.
So actually when I was getting towards the end of my college career, internships, I was going to take an internship class. I applied for ABC 7 KVIA, but I didn't get it. And then I applied for 104.3 Hit FM. And that story is funny. I love Dario Rodriguez. Dario, the delicious one, will always agree with this one. I emailed them, didn't get a response. I was like, I'm going to find him on Facebook, because I know y'all are on Facebook. And I think I had emailed Johnny, but Johnny gets like millions of requests and this and that. And so I didn't get a reply from him until later when finally I worked there. I was like, yeah, you haven't accepted my friend request. He's like, yeah, girl, I got millions. And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. But Dario, I kept messaging him. And then finally he was like, okay, we'll take your application. And then he didn't get back to me. I would email him again. Finally, I would call again. And he was like, you would not leave me alone. And I was like, let's just bring her in here and interview her. And I was like, but my persistence paid off, didn't it? And he was like, yeah, it did. It's a funny story. I didn't stop bugging him, but I got the internship there. And after my internship, I remember I went to him and I was like, can I have a job here? And yeah, sure.
And that's how you got a job there.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting. And again, I know the way you're telling it, just like the way I am. Well, again, the way you're describing how it happened, but the importance of having persistence and not giving up. Where does that come from? Looking back, is that your parents? Is it something that you just wanted that job, of course, but where exactly does it come from?
It's
if
my
you
parents.
Can look back?
All of it, it's definitely my parents. Because even to this day, they will tell me, no, like, I'll say, no, I make up excuses. No, they're probably going to say this and that. You never know. Try. What's the worst that can happen? So, yeah, for them, they were like, if you really want it, get it. And I remember, I think when I was going to ask for the job, my parents, I had to sit down like, I want to ask for the job, but I'm not sure, this and that and this and that. They were like, just ask. What's the worst they can say? No. Okay. I tried. At least you tried. So definitely my parents. And it's that situation that I've ever since then, I'm not afraid to, bug people or be persistent. I mean, I don't do it. I understand when I'm not going to go over the line, but I always tell people, I'm like, you got to bug them. You got to
And you're not afraid of get those no's, right? I'm sure.
Oh, no. Sometimes I love it when I get those no's because it makes me feel even more determined. Really? And sometimes those no's later on will come back and they'll need me for something else. So I'm like, remember when you told me no and I didn't give up? Well, I'm still here. I can still help you out because, and in the end, we all will still need each other somehow.
Nice. Okay. Well, we're definitely coming back to that because I know that's playing a big role in what you do right now, of course. But let's go to your radio time. I don't know how long you were there, but tell us about your experience. What exactly were you doing there?
So I was there for 3 years. I started the graveyard shift. So obviously that, they already had their set DJs, Johnny and Javi in the morning, Dario in the afternoon. They had DJ Puhef in the night. So they're like, well, we can start you off overnight, which was,
What shift are we talking about?
11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Yeah. So it's funny though, because I would get all the like drunk people. But then my friends would call in and they're like, play this song for me. And it was just funny. So it was fun. I learned to cope with it. At this time, though, I had my son. And so he was about 2 years old. So he was a baby. But my parents were like, no, we'll watch him. We'll take care of him for you. So that helped me out a lot because I was living with them at the time. So I did that for not too long. I did it for a while, though.
Well, you were still going to college, right?
Yeah, I was still in school.
You had another job as well. You at one point you had 2 jobs while you're still going to college. What was the other job that you had?
I think at that time I might have been Logan's, a server. Yeah, because before radio, I was just doing serving jobs. And actually serving is what helped me with speaking, learning how to speak to people. Sometimes I'm like, I kind of miss it. Because like when I go to the restaurants, I'm looking at them, I'm like, kind of miss this. And people, they know I'm a server because at the end of the day, at the end of our meal, I gather all the plates and I put it at the end and they'll be like, you were a server, weren't you? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, of course. By the way, it's funny that you're mentioning this because I always tell people the best job ever is when I was a waiter.
Oh, it's fun. It teaches you. And I actually learned some Spanish. I wouldn't say I'm fluent in Spanish, but from working at IHOP because it was the old IHOP by Cielo Vista Mall. So we would get a lot of people from Juarez that were doing their shopping and they'd go there. So I learned, tocino, huevos, this and that, like stuff that I didn't know because, my parents wouldn't really speak Spanish. So, and I was forced to, because I was like, well, they're going to tip me at the end of the day. So teach me how to say this and that. And sometimes they appreciated it too. Yeah. But I was trying.
It's so fun to be. Oh, yeah. If you're thinking about becoming a waiter or not, definitely that's a must.
Oh, it helps you out a lot. It helps you not be nervous, learn how to talk to people, and you meet people too. There's people that I think I'm on friends with Facebook, and I'm like, I met him when I was at Logan's and told him I worked for the radio, didn't believe me, followed me, and now I follow his life, and he's like out of town or something. But really? It's funny, how that happens.
Wow. Okay. I'm sure you know where Andale is at, right? Mm-hmm. The first time they opened, I was one of the main waiters there. Yeah. And it was, I remember, and I'm sure where you work, they have their specific areas that there's more people that you make more money, right? So you have to fight about that. Yeah. But then everything's good. And then, oh my God, it's so much fun. We can talk about this for hours.
And the best stories are like when I was a waiter.
Yeah.
Yes. And then after hours. Yes. Those I think when you're a waiter, a server, even bartenders too, it shapes you and probably who you are now.
Oh, for sure. And then at the end of the shift, when you start counting your money,
yes,
that's like
and that was the cool thing too. You always went home with money, and
all dollar bills, but
still, I know I would go to Target and be like, I promise I'm not a stripper. I am a server. But people would say you're either one of the either or. I'm not gonna judge.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, well, thank you for sharing that. Now going back to what you do now. What's the hardest part of being a weather anchor? When I think about it, I'm like, when I was thinking of my question, okay, I had Keenan on. I know you also do other type of reporting, which of course you're under stress, looking for the news and all that. But specifically in what you do, what is the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part is the viewers.
The viewers? Okay, you need to explain that, please.
Like, everywhere I go, I can never clock out because even with masks, it's funny. Yesterday I was grocery shopping and I had my mask on. Didn't think, but at the same time, I was wearing the same outfit that I had worn on air. And I was getting some groceries, and I could see the reflection, and there was a man behind me, and he was just there, and then he stopped, and I was just like, am I in his way? And he's like, hi. And I just didn't. He's like, Iris Lopez? I was like, turn around. He's like, I just wanted to say hi. I watch you all the time, this and that. And, that was it, and it was sweet. I love that. But then you get those people who are like, why is it not sunny today? Or they'll complain. They get mad at me.
And are they serious, first of all? They're like, it's not like, hey, by the way, you missed on the way. No, they're serious about it.
No, and you'll get some that are trying to joke around, but it doesn't come off as that. And I'm like, I'm trying to enjoy myself, man. Like, you'll get the people that joke around, but I'm just messing with you. I love watching you. And so I understand, like, okay, and I'll joke around too. If you're sarcastic with me, I'm gonna be sarcastic with you too. I'm off the clock. So I think that honestly is it's honestly when I tell people it's really? You get those viewers that will just email you for every little thing that I do wrong.
Really?
And it gets tiring at times.
Okay, you started what you do right now 6 years ago. How long did it take you for those emails to reach you, for you being recognized outside of work? How long was that after you started working?
Oh, right away. Because when you're a weather anchor, we're on TV more. Mm-hmm. So, and then I started working the weekend morning shift. So I was on a lot Saturdays and Sundays, and I honestly tell people that's where most people would recognize me from. They didn't even know I reported Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. They're just like, you're the weekend morning girl. So that's honestly where I work the weekend nights, and we still have people that watch, but weekend nights you're usually out and about. But yeah, I remember right at the beginning, we'd get friend requests, people, I guess, searching me and this and that. So
and then you're also very active on social media, right? So I'm sure you also get recognized a lot by that.
And then from the radio station too, we had people follow me from radio too. Some of them still call me Lily, which I love still. I'll still respond to Lily. I like it. People are like, oh, I'm sorry, that's not your name. And I'm like, no, but that's like my alter ego. So that's fine. Lily is still there.
Why did you create that personality or
that? No, actually, so Joey C. Radio, he was, I call him my mentor because he was the one who worked there and he's the one who helped me get my radio voice. Because people think, being on the radio, it's just about talking. And no, you have to have like a certain voice. You have to have a certain energy. If I listen to my air checks from when I first started to the end, it's night and day.
What's the biggest difference?
At the beginning, I sounded very like this, like very monotone. Hey guys, you're listening to 104. But I thought I sounded, and then at the end, I'd have my radio voice like, hey guys, it's Lily Lopez. You're hanging out with, so it's like a difference. I was able to create my personality. And actually, Joey, so at the beginning, before we make the announcement that I was going to be on, they asked, are you going to want to go by Iris Lopez? But he was like, it doesn't roll off. It doesn't roll off of our tongues. You're going to have to say it every time. Like, hey, it's 104.3 Hit FM, Iris Lopez, hanging out with you guys. He's like, what about Lily Lopez? And I was like, you know what? So it just like flowed.
Really?
Yeah, Lily Lopez.
When you walked in, as we were just having our initial conversation, and as I did my research, I saw also Lily, and I'm like, that's so weird because that Iris and Lily don't go. Marco Antonio, Jose, something.
Yeah,
okay.
People think it's like my middle name.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, interesting here. I'm not going to tell her, but now that you said that
no,
that's not your middle name, like, okay, it makes sense. Okay.
So it's my nickname.
Yeah, it's your nickname. What's the biggest difference, of course, aside from the obvious TV and radio, of you being on radio and now that you're on TV? You're still communicating, you're still talking to people, but aside from the factor that, of course, people are seeing you or hearing you, what are some of the differences that there's there between radio and TV, specifically in what you do?
Specifically I noticed it too, on radio, you're allowed to be more free. You can talk about a lot. You can talk about politics. You can talk about anything. TV, where we can't be biased. So we have to be careful what we talk about. As far as politics are concerned, as far as, current events that are happening, we have to, it sucks, but I kind of understand it. We can't really have an opinion much on social media. We have to be very careful, Sometimes, I can't even be on there taking shots of this and that because, we're still a public figure. Radio, it's a little bit different because radio, it's a little bit more fun and
more informal. I'm thinking,
yes, it's right? More informal. So, you expect, I would be out at the bars with my radio family and, everyone expected that from me. Now, I guess for me, it helped that I came from radio. I went from radio to TV. So people still understood that I was still that fun person. They didn't meet me just as straight to TV, So I think that helped. But, yeah, definitely you have to be more conservative more.
Is this because of the audience? Maybe older people watch TV, younger people listen to radio. Why do you think this is the dynamic, the difference between that?
I don't know. No, I think it's just because, yeah, we do. We definitely do have older people that watch TV. Yeah, young people, when I tell them my job, they're like, I'm sorry, I don't watch news. And I'm like, that's fine. Trust me. That's perfectly fine. So, yeah, it's just, older people. And obviously, they don't want to hear me talk about on the news about this because they don't agree with it. And it's like, because we're supposed to be giving one-sided. So I understand that. Okay. It took a while to realize, can't say this, can't do that, can't. But eventually I got it.
Okay, how did you get it? Is there a reason? Well, of course, this time that you had to adapt to it. What was the hardest part adapting to that, learning that, okay, maybe I can't post when I'm drinking, or maybe I need to be careful as far as giving out my opinions. How long did it take you for you to, adapt to that? Was that an easy transition, or was there maybe instances that you were, I don't know, under heat for saying something? Was there something?
There was like a situation, I won't go into detail, but for me, I wasn't very political. So that wasn't anything I had to, I didn't really talk about politics, religion on a daily basis anyway. So that wasn't really anything that I needed to work on. It was, just, the hanging out, going out part, because, you don't want to be out and then they see you and they're like, well, I just saw her out last night. So, and I had posted something and whatever happened. And I got heat for it. I didn't do anything wrong though, but you still got heat for it. And I understood their side kind of halfway, but I was like, okay, I need to. So sometimes when I take pictures and I have to push the drinks, I'm not doing anything bad, and I think one time I was at a beer festival downtown. I was hanging out. I was off. Was with family. We were at a beer festival, a local event. It was a KLAQ one. And someone commented, very professional. That's not a professional look on this and that. And it was on my personal page.
Yeah.
And all my family saw that and they were like, is that what you deal with? And I'm like, yes, I can't even be out enjoying one glass of beer. I'm not even driving, but I just deleted the comment. You'll never win. You'll never win. I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah. How long did it take you to learn that?
About maybe 2 years.
Yeah.
And when people would tell me, you're never going to win. You are just never going to win. It's a battle. You have to pick and choose your battles. So sometimes I'll just like their comment, or I've learned you can't fight back with them. Just thank you for your opinion. You're allowed to your opinion, but you're also allowed to turn off the TV or change the channel.
Is it still frustrating when you get that from time to time? It doesn't sound like you get it often, but when you do, it still bothers you, even though that you learn that, okay, I'm not going to let it bother me. But at the same time, at that moment, for 10 seconds, I'm sure there's something that, oh my God,
no,
really?
Before I would cry. I remember one time I cried. I just broke down because some lady emailed me on behalf of her and her husband. I think it was just her. And she said that I looked very unprofessional because I was bottom heavy and that I had thunder thighs, which actually was a compliment because I didn't have. I was
what is that, if you don't mind me asking?
Like big thighs,
okay.
like a Jennifer Lopez type of deal. So I was like, why, thank you. But she just went off on how it's very unprofessional for you when you turn to the side, this and that, and I'm a Latina. I am proud of my curves. And I thought, do I have to? I was actually a size 0, but I had curves. So I was like, so what does she want me to be anorexic? Because I'm not going to lose my curves if I stop eating. So I remember I cried that night, and my boyfriend at the time, he worked with TV and TV news with me, but he would not get half of what I would get. And I just cried and cried, and he was just like, wow, that, like, you guys get that? And I'm like, yeah. And I think after that night, I had to realize I was going to write back an angry response, and they were like, go to sleep, wake up the next day, see how you feel. I was still upset. I was still hurt. Obviously, if I still tell the story 6 years later, but I didn't reply. I deleted the email. I wish I would have kept it though, just, to
I'm
look
sure
back on
it's
it.
somewhere there, by the way, in the.
No, I had to. Because at one point I would keep all of them, and I would go back, and I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? Just delete them. Just don't even, But after that, I had to learn you can't let someone's opinion of you, and that's been hard. I care too much about what people think, but I realize you can't let they're not paying rent to be in your head, and they're not paying your bills. So everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You can love me, you can hate me, you cannot care for me, but I got to understand that let them have their opinion, but don't let it take over your life, because at the end of the day, they don't care. They forgot what they said 2 days ago, and I'm over here 6 years still talking about it.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because, again, I'm sure that there's sometimes that maybe they do hit on a insecurity or something that maybe you also kind of like have thought about it, or maybe something that you grew up thinking that maybe, I don't know what good example to give, but sometimes when they hit that nerve.
And they don't know, and that's the thing, we're real people. Yeah. And we're on TV, but we're not perfect. We're real people. We're going through life too. So yeah, when you email me that I said a word wrong, this and that, maybe I don't know how to say that word. I still don't know how to say Donna Anna, Doña Ana. I still don't know. And so I won't say it. But I'm like, we try, but sometimes, we're real people. We have feelings too. And it's unfortunate. There was a point, I think, where a lot of, I follow a bunch of pages on Facebook with journalists. A bunch of them, were committing suicide because it was just tough. They were on screen and people would insult them, and the job in itself is hard. Journalists are not okay right now. We got the pandemic happening. We had, the past few years where the media was the enemy, and we still are, according to some people. So you put that on top of that, and then you have people telling us what we should look like. I get yelled at so many times for wearing sleeveless shirts, and I'm like, that's all I find at the store. So let me live my life.
Really? Wow.
So it's just, it's tough, but we have to remember, they have to remember we're real people too.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it's a good reminder for you to see that, if they are worried, like the audience or whoever's sending you this type of things, if they're worried about someone else aside from themselves, the big problem is them, not
yeah. And we'll still, when people message us on Facebook, I'm going to go to your page and look at you and be like, you're judging me. Let me judge you, and say, no, you have no reason to be judging me. Sometimes it's a picture of a car or a cat or something, and I'm like, you don't even have a picture.
Yeah, I want to tell this story for like the 5th time already in this podcast. But when I first started, I'm usually, even though I graduated marketing and advertising, and even though I'm very confident, outgoing, but I don't share a lot of my stuff, right? I just don't, right? But then because of this podcast, because of my business that I want to promote, my brand and everything else that I'm doing, I'm putting myself out there more, right? So one thing that I'm telling my daughter and a couple friends that I want someone, okay, and again, this is where I have to be careful, because not that I want, right? But I want someone to hate on me, to like put an ugly comment, oh, your accent, you mispronounced this, you said that, you look stupid, what are you doing? I want something so I can prove to my daughter and myself that, you know what, it can't hurt me, right? Because I always preach that, you know what, as long as you're good, you're good. But since I haven't actually received something, I'm like
you can't.
Yes.
No, but you still can. Don't wish for it, because then when you get it, you're gonna be like,
just send someone my way. Just
I create a fake account. Just
no, it's gonna be you.
Just to say something. And then
I will
delete
clip this. I will tell you that I don't edit the podcast, but this will be deleted. This section,
just this part.
That's so funny. Okay, now I wanted to bring up 2 quick things, because you said about your personal brand. Basically, you need to take care of your brand, who you are, right? Because of what you do, you just have to deal with it. But then, and I'm sure you're going to know who I'm talking about, there's also this, I won't say if it's weather, sports, or just news in general, but there is this personality that he's famous, or she was famous for being out and drinking and then doing like the news or working on TV, right? And I'm like, that's so cool. First of all, if he doesn't get negative feedback, comments, either from the audience or maybe from their boss, because that means that we are able to tell apart that, hey, he's off the clock, he's doing whatever he's doing, whatever, we don't care. But then it sounds like, or maybe he did get in trouble for doing that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think right now, and this is what I tell my younger coworkers, we have social media now. We have videos that you can edit now. We have videos. There's just too much at stake for us. So that's why sometimes I'm like, you never know who's recording, you never know who's watching, and you never know who has bad intentions. So unfortunately, I go out there always thinking, and I hate it because sometimes there'll be phones up. And actually, me and my friend one time, we were like, are they recording us? I don't think so. But that's just how our mind is, And so we're like, we're never doing anything really bad. And sometimes they'll tell me, they're like, should you be drinking at this event? And I'm like, I'm off the clock and I'm just drinking a cocktail. And they invited me to the event, So, we run through it. But yeah, that's we're a brand.
At a point.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, and then once, like now, I think I'm used to it. We build our brand when you're on TV. You are your own brand, and it's it's just a job it's another job that I got to do to make sure that I can keep my job that I have.
Wow. Okay, it's part of the job basically.
Yeah,
right?
It is. Yeah.
Do you also deal with a lot of men hitting you up on your DMs, on your messages, on your emails? How you deal with that?
That is that you gotta hit them with kindness, but sometimes that's the thing too. That's the the double standard. Well, I don't respond to them. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't respond to them. I am a conceited bitch. I do respond. So, okay, let me respond to you. Thank you very much for your kind message. I really appreciate that you watch me, but I'm not, ask me to coffee or something. I don't want to. I say it in a nice way. And they'll be like, well, I just want to be your friend. I don't want to date you. And I'm like, I didn't say I was going to date you either, but it's just not something we do. I'm not going to, everyone who offers to take me out to coffee, dinner, it's just not something I'm going to do. But to them, we're being conceited. We're being stuck up. You know, I remember I had one emailer. One person messaged me saying that he thought I was someone else. And even his children were like, she's so conceited. She's so stuck up. And he told me what event it was at. It was my dad's company picnic party. I was there with my boyfriend. I had just gotten off of work. So I worked the overnight shift and from 6 o'clock in the morning to about 9. And I didn't have time to rest, had to get ready. So I was tired and I just wanted to be with my family. And I guess he was trying to say hi to me, but he said my face looked like I was mad. I wasn't mad. But he attempted to say hi, but I didn't, and I don't remember. And he was like, you were rude, you were stuck up. And I was like, I'm sorry you think that, but I don't remember you even approaching me. So how can I apologize for something that I don't even remember I did? You know, and so that upset me. He never wrote back. And actually recently he wrote back, you were gorgeous, amazing, this and that. And I knew it was him because I went back to the other messages and I saw that conversation we had. And so I was like, so now you like me? That one time, you know, it's just, we're real people. Sometimes I'm tired. Sometimes I had just a bad day.
It's interesting how even people taking the time to send you an email, maybe the perception was, okay, you know what, I want to say hi, okay. But then taking the time to explain to you what happened.
It was a long, you know. And I've never been, when people say hi to me, I will say hi to them. Because I was that person at one point too. I would see people like, oh, I still am. If I go, you know, if I see Bruno Mars or Post Malone, I'm going to be like, oh, you know. And, you know, it's humbling. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm just a regular girl that by chance is on TV. I promise I'm normal.
Yeah, I don't know why people think it's not normal. I mean, there's a cool factor. Let's also talk about that.
I mean, you see them on TV, and you know, so I get that. I get that. I understand that part, but I try not to let it get to my head because I'm like, girl, you are just like anyone else. Girl, they probably make more than you. So don't think you're any better than anyone else because we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we talked about that. Thank you so much. Going back to specifically what you do right now as far as weather anchor, do you think that eventually there's going to be a need for humans to be on air or on TV forecasting the weather, or eventually there will be no weather?
Well, you know, now, I mean, social media, web, everyone goes to Facebook for their news, Google for their news. So unfortunately, our business is, I still think we're needed, because the thing that we offer is the personality, is the personalization, and people like that, you know, like inviting us into their home, you know, like you can't get Doppler Dave Spielman on your phone. You know, his facts and his knowledge. You can, if you see it on your phone, you have to make out what it's saying. But if you see us on TV, we try to explain it to you in easy terms so you can understand and go back to your friends and be like, wow, let me tell you what I learned.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's funny looking back on my experience personally. I check on my phone, right? But there is something going on extreme, like
oh yeah,
a lot of rain,
that's when you really
or there's
need
something
us,
sure I'm like, okay, I can see this, but I really want to hear
about
it.
Yeah, that's when everyone turns on, because you want to hear, you want to see, and at the same time you can see what's going on everywhere else. So, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, people think like we could just look at it on our phone, but yeah, you don't get that personality, don't get that personalization and that explanation.
Yeah, as you're telling me this, looking back at kind of like the people that I remember from TV that are weather anchors, like looking back at the people that I remember, like they have the most personality out of like the whole newscast, in my opinion, of course, like the people that I remember, because you have to have that personality.
Oh yeah,
right?
Weather, and I think that's why, because I didn't study weather. I was radio, but I got good at ad-libbing and just talking to people, so they were like, you'd be good in weather. I was like, I don't know anything about weather, and they're like, we'll teach you. And yeah, obviously Doppler Dave is a great teacher, and so they didn't have to teach me how to talk to people because I already did it at my last job. So you have to have a personality. You have to, you know, be a little bit fun, loose. And that's why I like doing weather in that sense, because it's my own show. I can say the corniest jokes, the dumbest things, but I can do that.
Do you miss the radio? Is there any plans for later on, maybe going back to that?
Radio just didn't pay, unfortunately. I loved the radio though. I loved it because I could talk about music, so that I still had my little attachment to music when I was doing that. I love talking about entertainment news, so I was able to do that. So yeah, I miss radio, but there's no money. At least not for the position I was doing. I was a newbie, so the ones that are there now, they worked their way up and they're able to continue.
Just like any other career, I'm sure. Nice. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Iris. Let's talk a little bit back when you had your son, Jacob. That's his name, right? You were 23 at that point, right? How important was the help from your parents? I know I read the WordPress article in 2016 that you wrote. Excellent article, by the way. You talked about different things, very important things. But I first want to talk about the support that your parents provided when you were in those difficult moments.
Oh, and still to this day, they support me. We bicker back and forth. We fight so much because sometimes we're all too similar. But at the end of the day, they pushed me to be the woman I am today. And they always tell me I can do something. At 33 years old, I wanted to start a nonprofit organization. I was broke. I had no money. Still don't. But they're always there to help me out, especially with my son. They understand, I'm a single mom. And we actually got into a disagreement because I was working too much and my son missed me and my mom had to be like, you're just not there. And we went back and forth, arguing, and I just had to, my dad had to calm us down. And I had to say, you have to understand that you're never going to understand. My parents are loving parents, been in a relationship, a great marriage for over 20, 30 years. I was the one who kind of, I say, broke the mold in the sense of I got married. I didn't get married. I got pregnant while I was not married. And in a Latina family, they're like, what? My mom didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. And then she realized, times are changing. And they kind of had to change their old-fashioned ways because, I had a kid now and things were changing. But they still changed for us. And they're still to this day changing for us. But they're slowly learning that, they're never going to be in my shoes. But the least they could do is help me out, and that's their way of understanding.
Well, definitely talk about your nonprofit organization, but how big were they in you creating this? So one of the things that I see here a lot is that the biggest lottery that we can win as people is who we have as parents, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because the people that right now suffer from a lot of things being negative, maybe not depression, but being negative, always being upset, being irresponsible, a lot of things. When you really take a look at their situation, a lot of times it's not their fault. It's that they never had a good role model, someone to help them with. So as you're talking about your parents, how big of a role did they play in the organization that you created?
Oh, if it wasn't for my parents, this wouldn't have been what it is today. And I tell people that from the beginning, I specifically remember my mom, it first started just my cousin made a shirt for me because I wanted to post it on International Women's Day and write a motivational post, get people pumped. I posted that. Then people loved it so much. Where can I get that shirt? This and that. And I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll make a few more shirts and maybe I'll share women's stories. So it went from a Facebook post to a Facebook page to a blog page to let me sell shirts and give back to the community. And I specifically remember when I first posted the picture, though, my mom called me and she was like, well, what is this? Because I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. I was like, no, it was just a shirt that I made, a phrase one of my friends had shown me, and a phrase that I grew up listening to. My mom would always call us Mija, mijo, and she would always tell me, you can do whatever you want, Mija, yes, you can. And she was like, she's like, well, are you going to do something with it? And I told her my plan. She was like, I told your dad right now, I think this is going to be something big. I think, wow. Mija, I think, keep going, keep doing it. And she probably doesn't remember, but I specifically remember I was walking into work and I had my phone. In my head, I can see it. And I was like, but it's that energy that they know the passion I have, but they know that they need to sometimes push me. Because there's been so many times where I'm like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. It's too much. They're like, you can do it. We'll help you. And I'm like, okay, I'll pay you back. I owe millions. But they're like, no, don't worry about it. You're paying us back by proving that you did what you wanted to do.
And that's so important. And what I have realized, and correct me if maybe you think different or not, that as soon as you get in a stage in your life, when you consider yourself successful, not talking money-wise, but that you have done what you want, that you have accomplished whatever you want to accomplish, definitely there is that need to want to help someone else, right? So when I think about the organization and what is it that you do, the empowerment, like the stories that people share, like she's doing this because I think, in my opinion, we don't know each other at a personal level, that she's at that stage that she's fully comfortable with where she is right now, and now she wants to give back. Is that the case?
I guess you could. I still don't think it's hard for me to even say that I'm proud of myself. I'm my own worst critic, toughest critic. I will beat myself up over things, but I'm slowly realizing that, I've done a lot in the past 6 years, and I've learned a lot and I've experienced a lot. I'm not experienced in everything, but I feel at the age of 33, I had a kid. I worked in 2 businesses that were male dominated, and I had to figure out how to find my voice. And I felt at that point, in a sense successful, but I wouldn't say I'm really successful. I don't consider myself successful.
How do you define success?
Unfortunately for me, success would be not living paycheck to paycheck. And that's what's horrible for me. Right now, it's the money issue, and you can ask anyone. They're like, oh, we always hear, I'm broke, I can't do this, stressed out for money, this and that. So, there'll be a point where I get over it and I realize, money isn't everything. But right now, I'm struggling so much that for me, I'm like, I'd be successful if I could not live paycheck to paycheck. I could plan trips ahead of time and have the money to pay it. But then, there's people who would say, you're successful. Look at what you did, and I look back and I'm like, I did do a lot, but I could still do more.
Right.
I could still. So, yeah.
Okay.
One of these days I'll be able to say.
How will you define success? Like, let's say the money problems are gone now. Would you be happy?
So, like, if I was a millionaire?
Let's not call it millionaire, but let's say that you don't even have to think about
money. Didn't have to think about money. I would define success as being happy with what you're doing and doing what you wanted to do. So, yeah, I guess I am successful. Oh, look at you, my therapist.
Wait a second, my daughter's gonna hear this, because we talk about this all the time. I tell my daughter I graduated from college and all this, but I really don't care if she does or she doesn't. My definition of success is being happy.
Yeah.
Right. So I consider myself very successful. I'm very happy. Of course, I have a lot of problems, money problems as well with the pandemic, with a lot of things, right? But I find in the end that I'm successful because there's very few things that make me unhappy. Like very few things. I don't smile every day, 24/7. But when I think about it, I wake up saying, oh my God. And then when there's situations, moments, I'm able to enjoy that, right? So I'm trying my best to just kind of like, hey, happiness success is just being happy. Whatever you want to do that makes you happy, that's it, true. Right? So when I asked you that question, I was like, I wonder that if you're doing this because you're successful, because you're happy, the project, or is this a way to get to happiness?
I think it's a mixture of both, actually, because eventually I would love to do this full time because, I'd love to create my own job, and that's successful in its own. A woman who realized, that business wasn't for me. I didn't like the way that was going, so I said, let me create something that I enjoy, but that can help other women at the same time, and that I can educate them at the same time on my experiences. So yeah, I guess it's a mixture of both.
Yeah. As you're talking about this, I'm like, I wonder if also kind of like the stuff that I'm doing, is it to pursue more happiness, or if it's because I'm so happy that I just want to do many things, right?
Yeah.
So you got me thinking there. Well, maybe we can come back to that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really want to talk about a subject that I know in the WordPress that you did back in 2016, by the way. First off, if you want to talk to us about what it is, for those not familiar with that, and then we'll get into, I know that at age 13 you were diagnosed with depression, and then we'll start that conversation. But tell us a little bit about what that article was, why you wrote it, a little bit more on that, please.
So that one was I'm guessing it's the one that says, hi, my name is Iris and I'm bipolar, right? Yes. Now I would change it because I remember when I wrote that, someone was like, no, you're not. You're Iris. Bipolar is not who you are. You're Iris Lopez and you have bipolar disorder. And I was like, I didn't think of it that way, You're mental, and that's one thing everyone has to realize. A person's mental illness is not who they are. It's just a part of them, but it doesn't define the person. So that one I wrote, that took a lot. I remember I had it saved on my desktop forever. And my boyfriend at the time, I remember I published it, and I didn't even tell him I published it, but he knew about everything I struggled with. And when I published, I was at work one day and I just had a horrible day, and I was like, I'm going to publish it. Talk about my experiences when I was younger and how I didn't know what was going on in my mind, and my parents didn't either, because I come from a Latina family where just get some Vicks or take some Tylenol, drink some Sprite, you're fine, or you're just going through your emotions. So it wasn't until I was older when I realized what, mental health was, and that there's, there might be something wrong with you. And I posted that in 2016.
You were how old? Wait a second.
How old am I right now? I'm 33.
Were you 27? I'm
Yeah,
really bad with numbers. 26,
I was in my late
26.
20s.
Okay.
Yeah, around there somewhere.
You had to be 28 though.
Could have been 28.
Yes, because you're specific about being diagnosed at 28.
Okay.
So,
Ooh,
just to remind you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot my age. No, and I posted that, and I honestly, the second I posted it, so many responses came in. I thought I was gonna give it, you think people, when you talk about it, people are gonna think like, oh, she's weird. No, everyone's like, me too. I dealt with this too. I dealt with this too. It was opening a conversation that no one was, everyone was too afraid to talk about. And, for me, that can, I guess in a sense, I am successful. I opened a conversation that many people didn't want to talk about in our business. I'm the girl on TV. You're supposed to be perfect. And I did get some backlash from bosses that say you need to watch what you post. There's a fine line. But in my mind, I was like, how can we have people talk about, I have diabetes, I have cancer, I have someone with Alzheimer's, but you can't let me talk about mental illness. Mental illness kills people, So why can't I talk about it? And I'm so glad that I didn't let them scare me, stop me, and I kept talking about it. And from there, I got involved with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. And from there, I just, I take pride in people knowing me, recognizing me by the girl who's open about mental health.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. You also not talk about being diagnosed at 28, but you talk about your experience when you were at a young age. You said that at 13. Take us back a little bit. At what age did you know that, maybe this is not normal? I know you went to see this, what kind of dog?
It was the therapist, or actually my parents. So the stories that I remember, my parents, I guess they didn't know, but, my parents, they loved me so much. They were like, maybe we should take her to a therapist. But I was just stubborn. I was moody. Still am. And I would just get in angry rages, I had a great childhood. So it was like, what could be wrong with my childhood? And so one time I remember they were like, we're going to go out for ice cream. And it was only me. Like, this is weird. And I specifically remember the area. It was like a place near Cielo Vista. And it was already like in the night. And yeah, they took me in, and I was like, oh, this is a therapist. This is weird.
So there's no ice cream.
Yeah. So we're not going to have ice cream. I don't even remember if we got ice cream afterwards. But I just remember, I spoke to her. And that's actually the only time they took me. But I think it felt nice to like talk about my emotions. Sometimes that's all people need. You don't need medicine. You don't, sometimes you just need a talk, because when you leave those thoughts, that can just mess you up. It can really mess you up.
Yeah, especially in our culture.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as, hey, wait, before you talk negative about this person, have you realized that maybe there's again, a condition that she's suffering from? But no, we always label el loquito, la loquita, está bien, or so papá. Like, there's always something, right? Instead of like, we never had that window of, hey, there's a possibility that she needs help for this, right?
That it's not her, it's her mind playing tricks on her or something. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now, you were diagnosed at 28. We recently had Diego Robot. I don't know if you're familiar with who. Yeah. That he also said he was diagnosed at 32, 33, which is obviously already late. And that helped him a lot with not only taking the right medications, but being open about it. And he described his experience. In your case, how come it took so long for you to be diagnosed with that and talk to us about the experience once you found out, okay, this is
what it is. It was actually a journey. Because even when I was diagnosed, I wasn't really diagnosed properly. And that's, I guess I'll get back to that right now. But so what kind of flared it up was, after I had my son at 23, I didn't handle or deal with my postpartum. I threw everything aside because I was a mom now, and I needed to suck it up and not cry anymore, not be sad, and actually since
Were
then.
you a single mom, if you don't mind me asking?
For a few months, we were together, but the relationship, wasn't good. Now we are great. It took us about 3 years, but now co-parenting with my little boy's dad is the best thing ever. I wish every separated parent could experience that, because it's a beautiful thing when you're able to be able to discuss things and just be friendly with the other person and their significant others. So now it's great. But back then I wasn't able to deal, I was dealing with, being a single mom, not being with the person I loved. But I think that's actually what started to try and not be left alone with my thoughts, work. I would just work, be with my son, work. That's when I started finishing school. I would work those 2 jobs at the radio station, at Logan's, and then when I started working in TV, that's when, you put yourself up there for people to judge you. And I realized I'm not okay, man, with these, these comments, this work. It was just different, and it messed with me mentally so much. I would just break down at times. I would this and that. And then I had a friend who was like, you should go, see a psychiatrist, just, and he took me to the psychiatrist. He even waited there in the waiting room just in case, because he understood too, people feel weird there, like you're being judged. And that's, I think, one thing people, now I could care less. I'll be in the, psychiatrist, therapist office and be like, yeah, I'm here because I'm taking care of my mental health. Just like we take care of our body, we got to take care of that too. So I went to a therapist first, and actually now that I'm more educated on, mental health and everything, I probably should have seen a therapist first, because when I went to the psychiatrist, and so, gave him my symptoms, and bipolar 2 disorder is what I got diagnosed with. I was on medication for a few years, but I noticed, the medication kind of had a different effect on me. I don't know how to explain it, but
was it side effects, or was it just not what you expected?
It wasn't really doing much for me, but because it wasn't really treating me for the right reasons. So I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder. Then I actually tapered myself off of it, which the psychiatrists, doctors will tell you never to do that. And I shouldn't have, because I had, when I stopped taking the medication, I would get numb all over my body, and I would pass out sometimes. Like, it was just tough. It was like a person who's on drugs, how they have withdrawals. I was having withdrawals with that, but I was like, I need to taper myself off of this because I don't think this is right. And then finally I went to a therapist too, and she did all the tests. Like, it was a process. Come back. I think I was in a room for 2 hours doing a test, and she just spoke to me, this and that. And she said, okay, I see signs of bipolar in you. I also see signs of ADHD. My son has ADHD. She's like, but I think your real issue is anxiety and depression. And sure enough, yeah, I'm on meds for anxiety, and I can feel it working. I don't get as anxious as much. My emotions, I'm able to handle them more. So it took from, 26 to 33. It was a process, but I didn't give up on the process, because I knew eventually someone's going to get it right. I have to go to doctor's offices. I have to do this and that. But now I can say, this is what was wrong with me. But it took a while.
Wow. How difficult was it with the career that you chose, what you do? Because, again, you have to deal with the audience, public comments, stressful deadlines.
Oh, yeah.
And then having this condition.
Well, a lot of people in news have anxiety. A bunch of my friends, they'll have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. You just figure out a way to deal with it, unfortunately, but sometimes there's people who can't, and you need the medication, just to better yourself. And for me, I felt that I needed the medication because I was just too emotional. I just didn't like the person I was when I would have my moods. When I was depressed, I was mad at everyone. And I was like, it's not their fault I'm dealing with something, so let me take care of it so I can be a pleasant person. But a lot of people in news will tell you, they've got anxiety. They get depression too, because the business is so stressful, so demanding, and sometimes it takes you away from your family. So then it creates other issues. So
and having to deal with this on a daily basis, being on air, smiling, making sure that people are happy to see you on TV, and that you're dealing with something that, again, not a lot of people knew at that point. Wow, mad respect. Okay, so you published this, right? You posted this. What happened after that? I know you told me about your experience at work, that maybe there's some people that, hey, you have to be careful. But overall, it sounds like a lot of people were receptive, that they were thankful for you doing so. And that is tied a little bit to what you do now as well, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, yeah, it was more people talked about it, spoke about it. I even had co-workers who would pull me aside because they still didn't want to talk about it, but they wanted to let me know that they deal with the same things too, and they thanked me. For people to thank me for sharing my experience was a beautiful thing. And that's when I realized, when we're able to relate to someone, we're able to realize we're not alone, and it's okay that we're not okay, because no one's okay. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, you can have the best job, everyone's dealing with something. And sometimes it's the happiest people in the world that are dealing with the darkest demons. Yeah. But they just don't have that person to talk to. But, you got to let your demons out somehow, and speaking, I think, to one another and relating to one another is the safest way to do that.
Yeah, and so important. And again, you wanted to, of course, raise awareness and making sure people know not only about your condition, but it's okay, like you said, to not be okay. Aside from the medications, what else do you do to help you with cope with the bipolar disorder? What else do you do?
I wish I could say, I work out, run, this and that. But honestly, it's keeping myself busy, which sometimes isn't good because sometimes I'm too busy. But when I'm not busy, I'm left alone with my thoughts, and I just start thinking, oh my God, this and that, So when I created Mija, Yes You Can, it's a form of therapy for me, It's stress. Yeah, it's stressful. It is stressful, I can tell you. It is more than a full-time job, but it's rewarding. And I know in the end, if we're saving someone else's life, if we're helping someone else, then I'm doing my job. It's working.
Yeah. And it's funny how people that, again, just like you said, very successful, that in the surface, business owners with a lot of money, we all have the same problems, sometimes even worse than the problems that we have, right? But then we just see a picture or see one side of the story, the big house, the successful business, but then we don't see that there's a whole lot of like a story behind that. And when people such as that like want to share that for me is success in its own, just like you said, because you were able to do something that not a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's true.
So I appreciate that for sure. Hopefully we can come back to that, because I know that, again, when Diego shared that, I know that he got a lot of comments, a lot of messages, and also I got a lot as far as, thank you for sharing a different type of story, not only like the kind of like what is it that they do and their goal in life, but just kind of like the real problem. So I know this is going to help someone. So again, gracias. So. All right, so let's talk about Mija, Yes You Can. You created this right before the pandemic.
Yeah, literally right before March 8th, and then like the 17th is when it all hit.
Okay, you told us how it started, right? But what is your goal? What is the mission now? Now that you already have more than a year with it, what is the mission of this organization?
So now, to give out those scholarships, to help women in their goals that they want, that feel like they can't do it because they don't have the money. Unfortunately, you need money to do a lot of things. So we want to help them in that sense, and just motivate, let women know that an equal world is possible. If we all just come together, society pits women against each other, and it took me a while to realize. And when I started at TV News, I was one of those girls that another girl came in and I was like, you get jealous, she's going to take my job, this and that. And then I realized years later, when the girls who are my friends now, Shelby Montgomery is actually our vice president. She was one of my, she is one of my coworkers there, and the other coworkers there, we became friends and we cheer each other on. We still have moments where like, oh, I'm jealous, you this and that, but good for you, because they're not your competition. It's proof that it can get done, So instead of us looking at each other as competition, let's cheer each other on,
What do you think that is? Is it our culture? Is it just
it's just society? It's society likes to, since pit women against each other. That's just how, they think. You even have people that joke around like, ooh, are you mad at her because this and that? No, good for her. But it's just how we were raised. So it's no one's fault. You can't get mad at someone for thinking that way, but we can help change it. And I think, ultimately that's what I want this project to be. And it's teaching me a lot. I remember I said it one time, I was like, the Mija project introduced me to me. I was able to, realize what kind of person I really was, and kind of change that, because I was sometimes I had habits that weren't good,
Such as?
I know I still am stubborn, but at the beginning, I started it and I wanted everything to go my way. Then we started bringing more women in with different ideas and good ideas. So now I sit and I listen and I take it in. And I have to understand that I'm not always going to be right, that other ideas are going to be better than mine. And that's good. There's been so many ideas where I'm like, I would not have thought of that, But imagine if I was like, no, I created this and I want it to go this way. It would not be what it is today. It
happens a lot, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. And I had to learn. It's funny because Shelby, she one time told me I micromanaged. Ooh, and it sticks with me to this day. And she's like, I was joking with you. And I was like, I know you were, but at the same time, behind every just kidding, there's a little reality. But I'm glad you told me, I like it too when people give me constructive criticism, because I don't see that. I can only see what what I'm doing. So I had to learn not to micromanage. And I still even say it, sorry guys, I'm trying not to micromanage, but can you do this and that and this and that? I do it for a reason, because it is still my baby, and I want to make sure it goes the right way, but that's probably my biggest one, trying not to micromanage every little thing.
Going back to the mission a little bit, tell me specifically, I know that you guys help out with different nonprofit, right? You guys help out the community. Right now, if you can talk a little bit about the things that you guys have done already. But as I'm trying to, again, I research, of course, what the mission is and what you're trying to accomplish. Talk to us as far as what are some specific things that you guys are doing, and how can someone that maybe is not part of the organization, I don't want to be part of it, kind of like active, can I help?
No, yeah, of course, anyone can help. And one thing I think we take pride in is that we like partnering with other nonprofit organizations, because that too, nonprofits, you think we're all asking for money, so you think this nonprofit and that one, pit us against each other, and it's like, no, we all have different missions, or even if we have the same mission, we're stronger together. So we like partnering with other nonprofits. And actually, for the month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month, for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, we're going to give back portion of our shirts for the whole month of May. And then I created some stickers, and they're just like mental health reminders. All of that will go back to them. So we like to help them as well, and help us. It helps us in the sense of the people that are a part of their organization might not know about us, and vice versa. So it's like when we're together, we bring all of our tribes together, and then it just spreads the word even more. And I think that's something that I definitely took pride in, that I was like, we have to help other nonprofits, because it's because of those nonprofits that I got the knowledge and the determination to want to create my own. So I got to give help to them. And creating workshops, and we just giving women a space to feel comfortable in. We had our first virtual Zoom event. It was Mija's and the Margs and Mija's, and we made tacos. We had some
virtually?
Yeah, virtually.
Okay.
So we had some Mijas in the kitchen teaching them how to make the tacos, and we had other Mijas at a bar teaching them how to make what we call is our mijarita. And it was just a way for women to relax and like learn how to make something and chat and just talk, know?
Right. And being with people like-minded, right? That they also want to grow, that they also want to give back. And I think that's so important, because a lot of times we don't realize that the people that we're around, if you think most of the people that you're around are, I don't know, maybe not good for you, or they're not up to no good, guess what? Well, you're going to also end up like them if you hang around with them.
You got to surround yourself with people that they don't have to be just like you, but they kind of still have to have the same, ambitions, morals, dreams. Because if you're with someone who's like, I don't want to do anything, then, well, you're probably not going to want to do anything eventually either.
Yeah, that's exactly right. How big is the organization right now?
So we have over 22 women in our organization right now, built of our executive board. Then we have our committees that have chairs and co-chairs, and then we have volunteers. So it's actually a little bit more than 22 women, but like the immediate ones are 22.
Okay. I know that after COVID, I think you want to open up different chapters in Texas.
Oh, yeah, we'd love to. And we already have like Mijas all over. We have people in Houston, Austin, Mija's love us, California. Actually look at our map on Square to see where people are purchasing from. Virginia, New York, Washington, everywhere. And so it made me happy to know that this phrase, Mija, still resonates with people even out of El Paso.
What is it that they all share in common? Like, it's someone that it wants to be active participant or be part of the organization. What is it that they share, that they have in common? Is it that they want to give back, that they also see a need for this? What is it that they have?
No, yeah, definitely. First off, they see the phrase and they're like, yes, that reminds me of grandma, grandpa, tia, tío, mom, dad, or the nice little lady I used to work with at the restaurant that would always call me Mija and tell me I could do whatever I wanted, So first off, that's what everyone has in common. I noticed when we would interview them, that's the story they had in common. Then it was just they wanted to give other women that motivation and that platform too. So they wanted to find a way, and they saw the organization, what we were doing. They're like, yeah, if I can help you, do that, I want to.
How are you able to manage your day job, your son, and this?
I'm not.
How
Tequila.
are you trying, by the way?
How am I? I just got a calendar. So that's a start for me.
Now you're saying no to stuff.
Yeah, I'm saying no. See, it's baby steps. That's what I tell my parents too. I'm like, I'm learning. It's baby steps, but I'm slowly but surely. It's just time management, but I'm still not great at it. But I find ways. But now I'm able to do it more because we have 22 women. So now, we'll get other podcast requests or something. Like, hey, take this one. You want this one? You know the mission and everything. Okay, yeah. Or there's an event. Take this one. I'm learning to give. Because at the beginning, I wanted to be everywhere. Like, oh, they're inviting us? Okay, I'll be there too. And I would make it happen, but I was stressed. Now, I'm like, you don't have to be everywhere. Now you have Mijas that know the mission, know the organization. They can go speak on your behalf. And I trust them all to do that. So that's helped out a lot. Nice. Definitely.
Where do you see this going in 3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. I would say at least in 5 years, I would hope we would be able to we would have a chapter elsewhere, like an actual, what we have here, 22 women committees, we'd have that established out of town. For me, sometimes, Austin, I say that only because I see so many orders in the Austin area. I'm the one that's, tracking them when we get them. And in that area, we got a lot of people that, I guess it's because people from El Paso move over there too, but also because the culture there is still. So I would love to have, other chapters. Yeah.
Okay, what can I do as a guy that, aside from buying a shirt, to help out? What else can I do?
Yeah, and we get guys that see, and that's why we're women empowerment. But
by the way, not volunteering. Don't say volunteer.
Oh no.
Okay. Because I don't have to.
You're like, I don't want to. No, it's honestly just spreading the word. The guys who buy the shirt they just wear it to the grocery store. They wear it with pride. And I see some of my coworkers sometimes walk in, and I see them with it. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, what? It's like a regular outfit for them. And they love it too because they get people that are like, why are you wearing that shirt? You're a mijo. He's like, no, but I empower women. It's showing that I'm a man and I empower other women. So, just showing support in that sense, social media, spreading the word, we'll have events where it's, men and women, men come out, you said you have a daughter, right? That's probably the biggest way, just showing her, like, look there's this organization that says you can do it. You can do it.
No, trust me, when she sees it, she's going to be laughing. Because one of the things she asked me when I talked about kind of like the idea, I have custody of her, so it's just my daughter and I for 9 years already. So I'm big on confidence of yes, you can. Because I think that anyone that is successful at anything had to be confident at one point. Maybe not their entire life. So for me, confidence is big because once you believe in yourself, that's it. And when I take a look, again, not an expert or I'm not God or anything like that. But when I take a look at people that are struggling with anything, with a job, with being happy, with being whatever it is, you know what? There's many factors, of course, but one of the main ones is that they never were confident, right?
Oh, yeah. Confidence is key.
Trust me, let me ask you this. I know you have a son, but this is one of the questions that I asked most parents as far as I'm an extremely confident person, but my daughter's not. She's she tends to be a little bit shy. I don't know if, like, where is the line of, okay, that's normal, or how can I help my daughter be more comfortable?
And actually my son's dealing with that right now, and it's weird because he's dealing with weight because he gained a few pandemic pounds. We were at home, and I actually blame myself because I'm like, I was just buying junk food. But we were enjoying ourselves, and he still has fond memories of the beginning of the pandemic because he's like, Mom, we would just hang out and eat this and that, but now he's like, Mom, I'm fat. And I'm like, you are 10 years old. Why are you even thinking about that? I didn't even think about that. But at the same time, I didn't have to. I was a stick when I was young. So it like opened my eyes though, because I was like, how are you? But then he would tell me too, because at the beginning I had gained weight too. And he would hear me talk about it. Like, oh, I'm so fat. Oh, I didn't think he was listening. And he heard me put myself down. So he's like, well, you always say you're fat. And I'm like, so that kind of helped me because now he'll say something and I'm like, or he'll say something about working out and I was like, I'm fine. I love my body. I'm good with it. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I have to watch. They're listening. Yeah. They're listening to everything and they mimic us. So now I have to positive reassurance. Yeah. Tell him, and I hate it because sometimes I'll be like, oh, look at you. Are you losing some weight? And I'm like, I hate that I have to say that to a 10-year-old. But you'll see it in his face. And he's like, yeah, I think so. I'm like, good for you. Because I don't want him to change how he is as a kid just because he thinks.
Yeah, it's so difficult, to be honest, because, again, I'm a confident person, but okay, how can I help my daughter build up that confidence? I'm like, I don't know, because it's not as simple as, hey, you be confident, right?
Because then sometimes, too, when you tell you can do it, yes, they might think of, like, you say that because you don't have to deal with this and that. So it's kind of relating too. With him, I'll relate and be like, yeah, that would happen to me a lot too when I was younger. People would pick on me, this and that. But this is how I overcame it. And just positive reinforcement, like just positivity and reminding them that, I love you no matter what, unconditionally.
No, trust me, we have very deep conversations, my daughter and I, on many topics, right? But then I'm always positive, always the hard work, this and that, right? And it's funny how even though she hears me 24/7, sometimes I have a guest such as Elias Parza that says maybe the same thing that I always tell my daughter, and then that sticks to my daughter. Mm-hmm. So again, going back to one of the things that I'm trying my best is to invite more role models here in El Paso, so she can see, hey, look, not only her, of course, but anyone listening or here in the podcast, watching the podcast, they can also take something back. Because again, all I'm trying to do here as well, aside from having conversations with great people, is for people to get a different perspective from someone. Oh, yeah. A lot of times we were raised a certain way. A lot of times when we have problems, we usually we talk to, if we have problems, I talk to my friends and family, right? Mm-hmm. The only problem with that is that if they're my friends, for example, they have the same mentality somehow, some way, right? So they're not really gonna offer me a different perspective. That's what I need.
They're afraid to hurt your feelings, and which is understandable.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to do as well, hopefully someone can hear your story, what you're doing here, a different perspective. Mm-hmm. Maybe again, just a different take instead of the usual friends and family that maybe again it's not kind of like I'm not gonna say it's not the best or that we here speak the truth, because that's not the case. But as long as they're able to hear a different perspective, a lot of times that's where a lot of people benefit from.
Oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, well, like little girls, they can't really take the advice from men because, again, you have to understand that you'll never understand being a girl, and vice versa. I have to understand that I'll never understand what it's like to be a little boy.
Te cambio el niño si quieres.
No, I'm good with my little boy, because if I had a girl, we would be crying all the time. Well, actually, me and my son still cry all the time. But yeah. So it is good. She has to see, So don't get like offended when she listens to a female say it, not you. Be thankful that, in the back of her head, she's like, my dad told me that too. But I see her because she, she looks like me. She's a girl. So I'm going to take it from her. But I know my dad told me that too.
That definitely helps me. Trust me. Thank you for that. Now, staying in the same subject, as far as El Paso now, El Paso woman, what is it that you think now that people reach out to you, not only for the organization, but I'm sure now being a public figure, a lot of people, women in El Paso specifically, reach out to you. What is it that you think that El Paso women need more help with? Is it, and what I'm talking about, is it like role models, motivation, having that perspective of, you know what, anything is possible? What is it that you think that we need more help with when it comes specifically to empowering women?
I would think role models that can relate to women, that can show their real side and show, I'm good at this and that, but I also struggle from this and that. Because other women, I know for me, when I was growing up, I didn't have, people I would see on TV weren't people that I thought I could relate to at all. So when I wanted to be on TV, I wanted to be myself, corny, funny, dorky, sometimes say things I probably shouldn't have said. But if people can relate to that and find, just real people and be able to feel comfortable to talk to the other people, I think that's what we need more of. Because I still love it when I meet people that I'm able to relate to. Or I meet other girls from other TV stations and I'm like, oh my God, we're just like each other. It's just nice to have someone to feel comfortable with and not feel like you have to be competition with one another.
And you said it best as far as being able to relate to that, not only in the point that, again, there maybe where most women want to be career-wise, money-wise, but also that they see the flaws and the things that they struggle with. And that's what I think makes a good role model. They want to see that
they could, they overcame that struggle. Well, I can too, I can. They did that. They went through this challenge. I'm going through the exact same thing. It can be done. I can get over this little obstacle in life.
Nice. Well, I have enjoyed our conversation.
Me too.
It is. Before I ask you my last question that I ask everyone, anything else that you want to talk about, either Mija as you can, maybe about mental illness, anything that maybe we missed today?
I think we got it all. I would just say, time's tough right now. Everyone needs to be there for one another and not.
How did COVID affect you specifically?
I think it honestly made me a stronger, I look at the silver lining of things. I think it made me a stronger person. I wasn't afraid to speak my mind. I guess because when I would speak to my bosses, it was always over a phone. So I was like, I can do this. I can tell them how I really feel. Because when I'm in person, I cry. When I get, and I'm not crying because they made me cry. I just get so overwhelmed and I just cry. So over the phone, I'm like, okay, I'm crying, but I can cover it. More outspoken, more opinionated, but I think I'm a stronger person because I had to be, Moms had to turn into teachers. Dads did too. Had to turn into teachers. We had to be creative. A lot of podcasts came out of it too. Which is nice because people were able to use their creative side. So I think, the pandemic made me creative too. I had to find creative ways to do the news, do the weather, and it made me appreciate life and my son, can't take that stuff for granted. And I think that's for everyone. We were all able to appreciate that. We miss our people. I missed my friends, and it's like, okay, I promise I won't cancel on our dates anymore. I still probably will, but...
No, well, thank you for sharing that. Now let me ask you my last question.
Okay.
Give us one thing that you love about El Paso, and it cannot be food because that's a given, of course. And one thing that you will maybe change or improve about our city.
One thing I love about El Paso, I love how do you say it? I love the family. It's like a family. El Paso is really a family. And we experienced that on August 3rd. I didn't personally know any of the people that passed away that were victims, but I felt like I did. I woke up that next morning hurt, like a part of me was gone. And I think that's how everyone in El Paso felt. It is a family, but families fight. So sometimes we don't agree with each other and, but we're all still one big family. And we love saying, I'm from El Paso. You are too? Oh my God. So I think I love the culture and just the togetherness about El Paso.
Yeah, well said. Okay, what is one thing that you maybe want to change or improve about our city?
The way people talk about single moms. Oh, you're from El Paso? Oh, you probably have a kid, huh? Yes, I do. you know, but I'll be honest, I'll see like social media posts from pages and they talk about the way people talk about women here in El Paso, you know. El Paso women are beautiful, strong, opinionated, sometimes a little bit spicy, but that's why you love us, you know, and stop speaking about saying everyone in El Paso has a kid. Okay, maybe most of us do, but what's wrong with that? Oh, child support, this and that. I don't know. That aggravates me because it makes women that do have kids feel like, oh, I'm just another statistic, or oh, no one's gonna love me because I'm that typical El Paso girl. And I don't think we should make women feel like that.
Wow, that's such a great thing you just said, by the way, because I agree with you 100%. Not only that specific subject, but I see a lot of pages that they're pretty funny a lot of times, but they don't understand that there is maybe a 17-year-old, 18-year-old that hasn't molded their mind. And if we continue talking about, let's bring this as an example, that, oh, you know, Paso, single moms, whatever it is. Wait a second, you calling that out, first of all, that's not accurate. Mm-hmm. That's the way you think about something is your perspective. That's your worldview, right? Mm-hmm. That's a reflection of your thoughts, of your reality, right? Number one. And number two, the fact is that, you know what, by us, again, showing or talking about that, like, then we're just painting one picture for someone that's not able to tell the difference. That, wait, what is the problem here?
They're creating the stereotype, like how I said, the stereotype of pitting women, you know, society. That was, I don't know who started that one, so we can't blame anyone. But here in El Paso, we can end that by, you know, sometimes, yeah, some of the posts are a little bit funny. You know, we laugh, you know, because I'm able to laugh at myself. But because I know I'm not that, you know, that stereotypical person that they say, you know, but there might be someone else, you know, a young person who does get pregnant, is single, and like gets depressed because they're like, everyone's gonna think I'm that girl. You know, it's, being a mom is a beautiful thing, and if you're a single mom, you're a superhero. So own it.
And we're not even tackling the main problem, because there's a problem with it. I had my kids very young, of course, and the main problem is not only education but also understanding what is out there in the world, that there's, aside from college, aside from that, there's so many things to see. So maybe I needed to wait longer. I mean, there's so many other things that we need to fix, especially guys, because again, the single moms, it's not themselves only, right? Of course.
There's a double standard. Right, it takes two to tango. I didn't make this baby on my own.
Right. There's so many things. I wish we could.
Yeah,
maybe we can definitely talk about the stuff like this later on. But you're absolutely right that the same thing applies, same principle to a lot of things. If we show just one thing of something, for a lot of people that don't have their mind together, they're going to think, oh, okay, then this is El Paso. If we just show a lot of people just drinking and driving, guess what? Oh, Paso, it's all about drinking and driving. Yeah. Wait a second. There's so many things that's you're just, I don't know if the right word's exposing, but that's just your reality right there.
Yeah.
The people, and this is something that we have said many times, not only myself, but other guests, is that the people that say, there's nothing to do in El Paso, there's nothing. No, wait a second. There's so many things going on. It's just the reflection of you have nothing to do, that your ideas are limited. Your friends, your circle, that's the reflection of you.
Of you, definitely.
And the same thing, again, with how we talk about certain things. That's your 100%.
That's your reflection. And some of those people probably never even had kids or nothing. So it's like your opinion doesn't even matter.
And even that, a lot of them did. And they still decide to just continue that conversation. Yeah. Like, oh, interesting.
Maybe they're covering up something. They're trying to act tough when deep down inside, they're hurting.
So many things. And every time I ask this question, my last question, like if you were to ask me, agree with the what I love about Paso, the community sense law. What is it that I think it's one of the biggest issues that I would change and improve is the emotional intelligence that we have, right? How many people you see that maybe have doctorate degrees, that they're super smart, this and that, they make the millions, but then they get a divorce and they're gone. Depression, a lot of different factors, or maybe that person that it's always negative on social media, or that person that's always posting about like everything that they do that they need to call out for attention. Wait a second, there's a need for emotional intelligence, but again, it's not their fault. The truth is that they never had that person to help them out through that, like at that age.
To be their person to go to.
But when I got passionate about that last piece that you said, because it was so good, by the way. hopefully we get to talk about it later on.
Yeah, of course.
All right, guys, that's all I have. I want to once again thank you for the
Thank you.
time, for the opportunity. I value time. You have no idea. Today's Thursday, and you're with me instead of your son. I know your time's limited, so I definitely thank you for that. I hope everyone has enjoyed either watching or listening to the podcast. Any parting words that you have?
Never underestimate the ability of a determined woman, because when a woman is determined, no matter her age, experience, or life background, it's going to get done. Because, Mija, yes, you can.
Wow, that was great. Thank you, guys. Adios.